Hello, my name is Miriam and I'll be presenting the topic of teaching Australian history and the history of wars. This presentation will discuss different aspects of the Australian history that seem debatable, like the frontier wars and its relation to current political issues, and some relevant and effective history teaching strategies. Now, the main question here is, are there any controversies in our Australian history, particularly when it comes to teaching the history of war to the young generations? There is no doubt that in a short period of time, Australia, the young nation, has come a long way. Yet the price for the nourishment and freedom observed today costs this land many lives and endless effort by many individuals and communities, especially the founding generations. Equally, there's no doubt that the 19th century European invasions were destructive and shed a lot of blood in the Aboriginal communities before founding a modern Australia. Today, residing on this land, whom most call at home, is a mix of Aboriginals, the descendants of the British, and migrants and refugees from all over the globe. Since our wide Australian society is very diverse, viewing and learning about Australian history varies depending on who's analysing it, as they generate different opinions. For example, a large proportion of the Australian society are third, fourth or fifth generation of white Australians who have no ties or loyalty except to this land. Within this group, there are two different major streams: the far rights, who advocate for the white supremacy and are represented in Parliament by active leaders like Senator Pauline Hanson, and the left wing, who support socialism and social ideologies. Certainly each have their own opinion on Australian history and how it should be viewed and transferred to the following generations. Their opinions are largely politically reflected in their votes and debates on Aboriginal rights, migration and refugee related issues, and so on. For example, Senator Hanson stated in her maiden speech in 1996, she said, "I was born here and so were my parents and children. I will work beside anyone and they will be my equal. But I draw the line when I'm told I must pay and continue paying for something that happened over 200 years ago." Despite the current debates about Senator Hanson's views, the above quote illustrates how Australian history is an interdisciplinary subject and must be taught and delivered as so. Equally respected are the custodians of the land, Aboriginals and Torres Strait Islanders, who express different views related to their past history, present circumstances and future position on this land. Furthermore, many minority groups are present in this historical, political and educational equation, whom also present opposing ideas of the Australian history and see it differently based on their backgrounds and experiences. For example, many have suffered war and witnessed friends and family members being killed as they were driven out of their homelands, which makes them fully sensitive to the topic of European invasions on this land. They could also express different views on unsettled debates such as the choice of Australia Day. Again, another current topic that is deeply rooted in our Australian history. Now, when teaching history, many students do not understand why they should be learning about old dates and events and often ask, why can't we just focus on today? Which brings us to the relevance of teaching history as a contemporary and active subject that's interrelated to politics, law, education and economy. A key factor in effective teaching lies in its relevance and relatedness to students. Therefore, it is necessary when teaching Australian history, particularly topics that continue to be debated and have a heavy impact on today's politics, economy, education and societies, to be taught overtly. This can be achieved by engaging students in higher order deep thinking and prompting them to engage their personal experiences in generating different views and opinions on Australian historical events. Robertson states that relevance is the perception that something is interesting and worth knowing. Many researchers are in consensus that student achievement is closely related to motivation, current issues and educational practice. Teaching the relevance of course content assists students in developing into engaged, motivated and self-regulated learners and citizens. According to Robertson, utility value and relatedness are two simple ways of providing relativeness to students. Utility value answers the question, what am I going to use this for? While relatedness answers the question, what has this got to do with me? Two questions often asked by students being taught historical dates and events. In an article titled Making History Relevant for the Social Media Generation, Scudder states that history teachers must ask students about their personal why. He said, facilitate a class discussion about why it is helpful to understand history and analyse historical events. How will that help you in high school, college, and in life as a citizen of the country and the world? Then have each student create a brief plan explaining their why. He said one sixth grade student I worked with wrote a simple but powerful reason. I want to learn history so I know how to change the laws to make life better for everyone. It's going to be really hard to motivate all your students unless you can get them to understand a why, beyond just getting a good grade. So in order to effectively teach the Australian history and the history of wars on this land, students must understand that the ramifications of Australian historical events continue to echo until today in the Parliament, electoral campaigns, and amongst members of the society. They must also understand the necessity of them being active social members who understand the history of their land to improve the present for a better future. Learning and reading about the Australian history shows that a lot of progress is occurring in documenting, analysing and delivering the Australian history. Whilst the military is receiving much more attention respectfully for its commitment in defending the land in the past and the present, Aboriginal history and the history of the frontier wars have also started to gain some respect and attention which was never recognised before. There is almost a consensus amongst military historians today that for over 100 years, the Aborigines fought the British Army, police and people in what is called frontier warfare. This recognition may pave the way for reconciliation between the landlords and their new owners, so to say. In teaching the Australian history, it is certainly necessary to acknowledge every aspect of the past in the Australian history by bringing to the surface all the events and listening to representatives of all streams and groups to generate better future laws and pay the rights and respect to every contributor in the benefit of the Australian land and nation. Thank you.